You're not gonna go see Columbus play in Key West.
Yeah.
Well, yeah, they had their gear and everything.
Yeah, we had our thing. That's all.
But at least we
The still kids that showed up with that, they're all wet and mustard. Best yet.
And even
Watch this, bring it back.
But even the CARES Act money plays a part of this as to where we end up. Like leave. It won't be over the 10 million last week's. Taking art on? Big plan.
Reminds me of the late '70s, my sister and I took an adjusted rate. Or didn't they got so screwed, because they thought it was gonna be good, yeah.
After those last for the year, years that played for me, that was 15%. Up to 20.
Is that right?
I got a crack 10%. So, they were going through the same thing we are only 5 years. I'm sure they didn't have a 50 chance to roll everything out.
Yeah, that's good. And for ketone.
Yeah, I looked it up, 10 to 15% a year.
He said nobody's.
Like 19.
This would be the meeting.
I was talking to George this morning. I thought of not going out.
My temperature and well, that
Whatever we went back to.
quite out something.
Yeah, not with all agenda. Very controversial.
The whole problem is, right, my story, I go into my paragraph, and that little, almost, you want to say a little corner, so they always flow in there. Yeah, really nice people.
Because like you wait another 2 weeks.
I don't like the way
7 o'clock, we'll call the meeting to order. We'll have a roll call.
We have 24 present and 6 absent.
All right, thank you.
I think.
Can we please rise for the Pledge of Allegiance? Supervisor Payne, why don't you lead us tonight?
Allegiance
to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Take a brief second. Thank you. We'll proceed. We're in compliance with open meetings law.
We are, Mr. Chair.
All right, thank you. I will entertain a motion for the approval of the agenda. So moved by Mr. Schultz, seconded by Mr. Drana. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Okay, we will move the agenda. Communications. Mr. Waymeyer and Mr. Zangle.
So obviously the last 40 plus days has been a lot of work going on and trying to make this work with our communities. Officially, as of last night, every municipality, town, city, and village in Jefferson County has approved what was the tentative plan and how it aligns with the Jefferson County main plan that is being proposed tonight. And so we want to do briefly before we get to the public hearing. The executive committee has already heard some of this. Is just to make sure we walk through some of the changes that took place when the GIS team with Matt, and Nicole, and Jerry went out to talk with the communities of some of the line changes and where some of the deviations are at. And so all these have been posted online and a part of our packets tonight. So I just want to talk through a couple quick documents in general. So the first item I just want to quickly touch base on is the final tables that were produced by each district. And you'll look at the two parameters or variants on either side there on the high ends. As a reminder, as we went through the process, the intent or the policy guidance the staff was given is to look at trying to keep things below 5% above or 5% below with the standard being that 10%. So trying to get a little bit better than that going forward. And so on the high side up in Watertown, we're looking at a plus 6.33% or 179 above that magic number of 2830. And then the biggest one below is 15, which is 161 or negative 5.69% below the standard deviation. The only other 5% that we see above 5% is in District 20, which is a negative 5.55% or 157 people below that total. So that's ultimately, as the scenarios were out, that's where we ended up with the deviations by district. So all in all, I think as best as we could hope for with where we're at today and looking at some of the unique census blocks that we have to deal with. So the other thing I just want to quickly talk through on this map was online, was not necessarily a part of your packets tonight, but to talk through a couple of the specific areas that we saw changes. And so we'll start, some of the bigger changes had to take place in the city of Watertown in general. And so we saw 3 main changes up in the city of Watertown, mainly related to trying to get their wards and how that aligns with their aldermanic districts for the main items. And they also were trying, as part of that process, to keep themselves underneath the 10% margin as well too. So what we saw take place here specifically was 2 blocks that were bounded by Bernard Street, West Street, and railroad tracks were moved from Supervisor District 4 to Supervisor District 8. Census block bounded by Bailey Street, South 6th Street, Clyman Street, and South 5th Street moved to Supervisor District 5, and that's in this vicinity here. 5 to 6. 2 blocks bounded by Western Avenue, Harvey Avenue, Sunset Avenue, and Richards Avenue moved from Supervisory District 7 to Supervisory District 6, and that's really in this area. So those were the main areas in Watertown that were impacted. Another area was in Asdalon. It's mainly in the areas of 6 and 4 in the town of Asdalon. This really dealt with a couple areas related to some of the movement of the city of Jefferson having to get out to pick up additional population, what were traditional seats. So this extended Representative 18 west to County Highway Q and north to Zabal Road. And then the other one was returning, basically moved Supervisor 20 from the town and returned that area to Supervisor 11. So that was partially in these areas right in here specifically, whereas 4 is highlighted. The other area is in the town of Concord change. So as a reminder, the color is the new and the dotted line is the existing. So this was returned back, right, Matt? Did I miss that up?
Yeah, backwards.
Backwards. So the dotted line is the new district. The color is the existing district.
The colored is what county board previously approved for the
I'm sorry.
proposed plan.
That's
Yeah,
what
we had
that's here.
a lot of maps going on back and
Yeah.
forth, but
So this basically this purple area though is what returned back to that area of Concord. I apologize for that. Also areas impacted are areas of additional areas around the city of Jefferson, specifically for just the area that's highlighted by 7 and 3. And so a lot of this was working with the town of Jefferson specifically to look at trying to reduce the number of wards so we didn't have multiple ballots is kind of where those changes came from, right, Matt?
correct. And the proposed one that county board viewed previously, we had those supervisory districts extending out into the town of Jefferson, and the town of Jefferson was opposed to that due to the additional workload, additional wards that would be created, additional ballots. So they requested to the executive committee that they reduce the number of wards and supervisory districts within the town, and we were able to do that by making some other slight adjustments that you kind of see there, and you'll see in the next map a little more clearly.
And then 3 more main changes to highlight here. This one is in the town of Koshkanon. And this was really focused on removing Supervisor 20. If those haven't looked, Supervisor 20 kind of runs pretty far out there across. So removing Supervisor 20 from the northwest corner, which was right in here, and returning that to Supervisor Area 30. So that's all underneath Supervisor 30 now. Up in Lake Mills, obviously with some of the population change and growth over there, as I'm trying to drive here. Part is we have trying to overlap some annexation districts and what's in the town and what's in the city still. So an example that came up in executive committee, you kind of see this unique line right here between the town and the village in District 14. What has happened here is there's a little island, actually a town right here with 8 residents that connects to the town over in here. So that's actually going to in District 15, and that's what that's attached to. So that's kind of why that's kind of interesting. But up in 8 and 9, a lot of this was dealing with moving a population based on some annexations, et cetera, to align those items. So we specifically saw moving the mobile home park north of I-94 from Supervisor 2 and switch that to Supervisor 15. And then this also saw the transfer of all the areas west of Main Street, south of 89, and the truck stop area to Supervisor 2 from Supervisor 15. So those will swap to really balance those out. And then the last main change is over in this direction here. And it really highlights this area right in here. Originally, a subdivision was split in half. One side of the road was in 21, and the other was in the adjoining district. And so moving the census tract back to 2. So that whole subdivision is in one representation area. So other questions were asked of any other additional changes, and the towns brought up no additional changes that they specifically requested. So, in your packets tonight, that was additionally handed out. You'll see the one that's entitled Proposed Amended Supervisor District Maps and the currently enacted Supervisor District. So that's the one that has been updated and cleaned up. And that's the one that we'd be looking at in general for approval. On the back side of the map, the staff did break out by municipalities, specifically Lake Mills, Watertown, Fort Atkinson, and Jefferson, a little more focus points, so you can kind of see how those are a little more in depth without having to zoom in. So that's just to try to help as a to look at those district changes entirely. So, Matt, any other big changes that you want to make sure the board is aware of from the tentative map change that and feedback?
Not necessarily, unless anyone has any questions. And just a point of clarification on the map that you do have in front of you, the colored portions will be the new supervisory district. Then you'll see the dotted black yellow outline. That's the current supervisory district. So the colored will be what will be the 2021 moving forward 2022 districts.
Sure.
Thanks. I've got a question about right down at the county line between Walworth and Jefferson County in Whitewater in 24, right at the in the middle of 24, but at the bottom, there's a little different color there. What is that? That's still our county, isn't it? It looks like it's the same color as 25, right?
That's unincorporated, right, Matt?
I'm not sure.
See what I'm talking about?
No.
Right here, Matt.
So if you look at Whitewater, the green.
Right where Ben's cursor is there?
I can't see the cursor.
Right in the middle?
Yeah, it's right in the middle, but it's right on the county line.
Yep, that is District 25. The color just might be a little goofy there when they're next to each other, but that'll be District 25. That's a portion, again, that's of the town that's kind of within the city. So it's keeping the town portion with District 25, and the city will be with District 24.
Thanks, I never realized that.
I guess I'll go ahead, Supervisor Cole.
Could you go over the changes from proposed to, is it the new proposal for District Two? What happened with the town of Milford's wards there, if anything?
Matt, do you want to comment on Milford in terms of District Two, what their comments were back to you?
Yeah, what was the last part of your question there, Supervisor Kelly? What was the comments from the town?
Yeah, do the wards need to be basically balanced on population, because you, looks like you moved into three, you know, it's a
talking to the mic? I can't hear.
significant portion of the one ward. I'm just wondering how that balanced out.
Use the mic.
Could you use the microphone, Supervisor Kelly?
I'm sorry.
Oh, ask again so they can.
I was asking about the ward situation in the town of Milford. One question.
So the wards do not need to be equal size. They can differ in size. There are general guidelines that the wards are guided to be within, if you will. They have a general parameter for most of our towns in the county between 300 and 1,000 people. However, the wards do not need to be within that range, within that value of range. If a town is creating a ward to conform to the county supervisory plan, it can be outside of those parameters. So you'll see some of those in this area, especially in the example you're bringing up. That one could be less than 300, but in order for it to meet our county supervisory plan, it can be.
Thank you. The other change in District Two then had to deal with the trailer park on the outskirts of Lake Mills.
Yes, yeah, that was down on the very far south end of that district. That was one that was brought up by the town of Lake Mills. We didn't catch that in our original mapping, but that is a request that the town asked for to be put into Supervisory District 15, I believe, as that would fit better with their balloting and their wards currently.
So other than that, there were no changes from what was originally for District Two.
Yes, yep, you are correct.
Thank you.
Maybe this was addressed. It appears that the Supervisory District Two has several blue islands within Supervisory District 15. Is that a coloring mistake, or is that just the way it is?
These colors here?
Or are you talking on the north side of the city?
North side of the city.
The north side of the city, those are proposed to be switched back to Supervisory District 15.
Because there's a couple that are blue on this map that I have.
I think that's the colors playing tricks on our eyes. If you look at that map that Ben has up, the city blown up portion, I think that, oh, I see what you mean now.
Here, and then there's a blue island down here.
Yep. Let me look at it just to make sure that map's right.
Any other questions? Well, Matt's trying to clarify that. So I just want, before we move on, just two quick items. So number one, I think when we laid this plan out, I think everyone realized this was a lot of work in a very short time period. And some of the data wasn't quite where we had hoped it would come in as quickly as we did. So to our partners at the town, the villages, cities, they really stepped up to get this done. And so just make sure you all understand that they really stepped up to the plate to get this done in less than the 60 days to get this taken care of. And then the other part is to Matt, Nicole, and Jerry especially. I got a lot of compliments from the various staffs of how well they worked with them trying to figure this out and make the puzzle work. In some cases, what we saw as a deviation was different than their deviations, and trying to get that all to balance. So just to make sure you all realize the hard work they did and working together, collaborating, and making this happen. So with that being said, Mr. Chair, Matt, do you want to quick clarify?
Yeah, look back at our notes. So that map is correct that Ben has up there with it being into Supervisory District 2, and that was based on the town's recommendation to even out their ward numbers a little bit more. So then basically the town would have a ward for everything in Supervisory District 2 and a ward for everything in Supervisory District 15, and that exchange evened out their wards, if you will, if that makes sense.
And then just the last reminder, after we get through this process, as we'll have to wait for the feds and the state to figure out the state districts and the federal districts. That might require us to change a little few things depending on what they do as that unfolds to make things appropriate. So we'll deal with that when that comes. So, okay, Mr. Chair, that was the main updates. We want to make sure the board and the public were aware of prior to the public comment and public hearing.
Thank you. Is there any questions? Any further questions? Seeing none, we have public comment for anything on the agenda, which is basically the public hearing. So, at this point, we'll open up the public hearing, and we have a person would like. I need a motion to open a public hearing. Mr. Winnicky, second by Mr. Johns. Okay. Public hearing is open. Dan Russler, you'd like to address the board.
Well, thanks very much for having me here, and thank you for that update, because some of my figures are a little wrong on this one. My most important task today is to compliment the county's GIS staff for their hard work in reducing Jefferson County district plan populations from the original 20% down to whatever they are now, so I think that's a tremendous achievement, and that needs to be recognized. And the reason is that, well, given the local voting district population deviation, it's even more damaging to one person, one vote than at the state level. So it is an important goal. You can imagine, I'm just going to take an example. If there were two people voting, if you didn't have a one person, one vote strategy, it would be a crazy vote process. Now you take that to 10 people, and you have, one person, one vote. Well, one person off, might throw things 10% off, but frequently that doesn't really change the outcome of the vote. But when you get 100,000 people, it's even, less important. So here we are at the county level, and, these are very important to some of the supervisors here represent people who have less power in their vote, and some people have more power in their vote. So I think you need to think about that in the future. So, but the reason that the county and all of us should thank the GIS staff was because they were no doubt confronted with the awkward census block shapes and sizes. And the presentation just referenced that. One of the problems is those are hard to change. Those census block isn't something you can just make a split on and do the right thing. It takes a decade to get those census blocks proposed and resubmitted. I don't know what the process is, but here we know that Iowa had that problem 50 years ago at their last court case. The last time a redistricting court case was held in Iowa, and they were so unhappy with the result that what they did is they empowered, at the state level, they empowered and encouraged their local governments, like this one, to spend the decades, and all 5 decades since then, negotiating with the U.S. Census to get those blocks so that they weren't interfering with their population deviations. And I don't know, has that ever happened here in Jefferson County where those have been renegotiated? Okay, well, it's perfectly legal to do. It just takes willpower. And so, I'm just going to close this in summary. I'd like to recommend that the proposed Jefferson County maps be rapidly approved. I think we need to get this year over with. And I'm sure everybody else agrees. But the county supervisors, especially the authorized county planning resources, should spend much more of their time considering what is required to reach lower district plan deviations in 2030, and then provide that direction. Specifically, the county supervisors providing that direction to the staff that they are authorized to negotiate with the U.S. Census. Now, you might say, well, maybe that's the municipality's job. But there's no way that the municipalities have the resources to negotiate with the federal government. That has to be at the county level. And I don't even know in Wisconsin whether the county is authorized to do that by the state of Wisconsin. But that's what has to be done to reduce our population deviations. It's not a political decision, it's a technical job. And it takes a long time. So that's my charge for the supervisors. Thank you.
Thank you. Other public comment? Part of the public hearing process here. Any other public comment? Seeing none? I entertain.
This is Kurt.
Oh, online. Okay.
I just, yeah, I tend to agree with the gentleman that it does need to be looked at, especially we've had such expansion growths in Fort and Johnson Creek and Lake Mills. They throw things kind of off. If you look at my district, I almost go from county border to county border. And it is something I think that we do need to look at and figure out, can it be done by committee or how that can be done. But I think it would be a good thing to look at that, just to kind of, I hate to say do a reset, but it makes it very difficult when you're trying to line things up and you look at the census blocks and they're probably done 100 years or more ago and the population is drastically different. So I do think it's something we should look at as a county and as a board.
Other comments? Other comments? Anyone else online? Seeing none, I'll entertain a motion to close the public hearing. So moved. By Mr. Schultz, second by Mr. Brogler, was it? Or Mr. Herbst? All right. All in favor of closing the hearing, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Hearing none. The public hearing on redistricting is closed. Public comment of a general nature.
I've got a comment.
Okay. We have 3 minutes.
I just want to make sure I've got my facts straight on the liquid natural gas plant. And Supervisor Jackal, since you were on the executive committee and you were the one who wanted to end the discussion early, I'll just direct my questions to you. I just have a few simple basic questions, so feel free to use your microphone. You've had plenty of time to come up with a reason why We Energy did not mention a supply issue until the last end of the discussion, where to me, if they had a supply issue, it would have been the first words out of their mouth. Any suggestion as to why they withheld that information from us?
Point of order, Mr. Chair. This is not the time for answering questions. If there's some issue that needs to be discussed or debated by the board, it should be listed on the agenda. This is a public comment period.
Okay, well, then don't answer, but I think we both know the answer to that. Okay, I'm looking for an explanation. I don't believe into the discussion came whether there was any liability for terrorism in the discussion. At least I don't remember that. I don't remember discussing if the county's going to be listed on the insurance as additionally insured, a certificate holder, or if the county's going to have any claims in the event of an accident. that I don't remember hearing anything about a damaged circle, and nobody could probably tell me the property value within the first 5 miles of the tank. So, we have, as I looked up, Exonia was $530 million protected by a $5 million policy. Now, they said it was 12 million gallons of liquid natural gas. When I asked before, nobody seemed to know how much gas that was. Well, as I discovered, it was 644 cubic feet, make 1 cubic feet of liquid natural gas. So we're going to have a tank with 1 billion cubic feet of natural gas sitting there as I did my math. So no one could tell me the cost to the ratepayers, whether the tank's going to be beneficial to the stockholders or what prices the consumer's going to pay, whether it's the market rate at the time or the cost of the gas as they put it into the tank. So, Supervisor Regler, you made the comment, paraphrasing you, that you claimed you did research and that you were unable to find any concerns about liquid natural gas tanks, and you concluded that they were safe. I would question your logic that because something hasn't happened in the past that it's not going to happen in the future. We just had a boat anchor tear up a gas pipeline in the ocean. So certainly things that haven't happened in the past happened in the future. And since that meeting, I've also learned that the first town was burnt down by a liquid natural gas tank in the 1940s. A constituent sent me a link that started with a government report, says in the last 10 years there's been 22 reported incidences with $85.1 million in damage.
Your time is up.
Okay. Thank you.
Any other public comment? Supervisor Martin or Supervisor Winnicky?
Yeah, I don't think I'm looking to come to the podium. That's not necessary. I actually meant to say this during the earlier part, and it went by so quickly I didn't have an opportunity, but I just want to thank all the people involved in the redistricting. I think, I'm not an expert on this by any means, but you see a lot of maps. But there were other maps too. And, there was talk from Mr. Rustler about the deviations and the blocks. And it actually originally was even a little tighter. The deviations were a little less. But in order to make necessary changes, reasonable changes, and because of these census blocks, et cetera, it caused a lot of disruption. And yet, I can say that our zoning department and our administrator and our corp counsel all seemed to act with professionalism and decorum and interacted well. And the net result is it makes all of us look good. And so for that, I'd just like to say thanks.
Thank you, Mr. Winnicky. Supervisor Martin.
Thank you, and I would echo what Supervisor Winnicky just said, and also to thank the residents that did their own mapping, including Mr. Rustler, because it's important that they're also watching and being informed with how this process is happening. So thank you to everyone. A quick comment, it sounds like the last stretch of decision-making from the PSC or soon regarding the LNG. And I do want to make just a quick comment because if it does get approved to be put into the Exonia community, it's very important that PFAS-free firefighting foam be obtained. So if there is a need to battle a fire, which we certainly hope there isn't, that we don't have additional contamination from PFAS-containing foam, which it's my understanding that's what we have right now. And that would be bad environmentally, it would be bad for public health and safety, and it would be very bad from a budgeting standpoint because remediation is extremely expensive. There are grants available through PHMSA. It's called a TAG grant. And one of the communities last year in one of the other states, which isn't coming to my noodle at the moment, I think it's New Hampshire, did get a grant for PFAS-free foam. So I think this is very, very important. Thank you.
Thank you. Any other comments of a general nature? Any other public comment of a general nature? Seeing none, I will entertain, or announcements. Any announcements? And we should certainly announce an early meeting next time.
Yeah, just a reminder, we are having a meeting for the update on the courthouse project / sheriff jail project. That will be at 6 o'clock. The intent is to have that done by 6:45 so we can prepare for a regular business meeting at 7 o'clock. We have a lot of big stuff on the agenda. Obviously, redistricting the budget, et cetera, will be on the main agenda as well. So, just a reminder, friendly reminder that is on the agenda. I know several members have been participating in Buildings and Grounds, so they kind of have the update, but we'll make sure the whole board is updated where we're heading. And some of the cost changes with some of the inflation issues we're dealing with. So, thank you, Mr. Chair.
Thank you. Any other announcements from the board here? Any other announcements? Seeing none, I'll entertain a motion to adjourn. Motion by Supervisor Jakel, seconded by Supervisor Schultz. This is not debatable. All in favor? Aye. Aye. Opposed? Hearing none, we're adjourned. Thank you.